Okay, so welcome back. I am not your boss. You are not my employees. This is all just theoretical business advice. But hopefully, I'm going to be saying something different that maybe you haven't heard before. Today, we're going to be talking specifically about resumes. We're going to be talking about the mindset today, the mindset you need to have before you sit down and craft your resume. There's a whole process that you need to fully perform. You need to fully go through in order to polish your resume to the point that it needs to be in order to survive the various stages of the hiring process. These days, as I mentioned in my introduction video, these days you're going through at the first level a computer scan. So you need your resume to have the kind of buzzwords that a computer scan is going to be looking for. Second, after you pass that computer scan, you can't just put in customer service, sales, marketing, different. I need an explanation. The computer is great. That's great. Is looking for terms. But now as a person, the computer hands your resume to me and now I'm reading it. Great. I need a little bit more than just single term bullet points. I need a little bit more expansion. Tell me a little bit about your cashiering experience. Tell me a little bit more about your customer service experience. Were you working in a call center? Were you working... Okay, so yes, you were working in a call center. Were you making inbound calls or outbound calls? Both? Okay, how many of each? So you're going to have, there's more that I want to know as a person. And that's just the first level, typically. I'll just talk about the company that I work for and my position there. We actually have 3 levels. That we don't have the computer so much, but we do have where we get your resume. We don't have the computer scan, but this is where I'm coming from with that. Most companies have 3 layers, 3 levels. The bigger companies that have you apply online, they want you to go through the computer. Next, then you get to a recruiter who's going to call you and kind of ask you questions. A lot of times with the really big companies, this is kind of like a formality, and they don't even really interview you. They just kind of go over the job description that you're responding to and making sure that all of the requirements that job description mentions, that you meet them. And so they'll ask you, okay, this job description here needs you to have 4 years of customer service experience. Do you have 4 years of customer service experience? Yes. And then they tick the box and they move on to the next question. After that is when you actually get to like a hiring authority. And it might be a longer process for a lot of these companies where finally, like if you're applying for a major chain store or restaurant or something like that, they're going to put you in touch with the assistant manager of the store that you're actually that's nearest you, that you would actually be working at. So you get that call from corporate and they kind of just tick the boxes to make sure that you're good. You've already passed the computer stage, so that's good. Now they put you in touch with the assistant manager who kind of talks to you a little bit about that. Now you sound good to the assistant manager. Finally, you're going to end up with the general manager, and that's going to be the person that's going to call up and say, all right, let's get you in for an interview. Maybe the assistant manager will have you come in for an interview first, but the general manager will probably be in on that interview, something like that. So it's a long process to get a job. Unfortunately, your resume, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, because as an employer, we like that. That's a lot of opportunities for us to gather information about you. Learn more about you as a person, as an employee, as who you've been, who you want to be, that sort of things. But it's a long process that your resume has to survive at every stage of the process. Are you scared yet? Just a little? I don't know. Maybe, hopefully not. But how are you going to take that kind of information, that much information, and squeeze it into a resume that there's a lot of debate about whether or not it should be 1 page, 2 pages, 4 pages, 6 pages is too much, 1 page is too little. How am I supposed to squeeze that much information into that little space, right? The very first thing that you need to understand about the resume writing process is you need to understand the purpose of the resume. Your resume is not going to get you the job, okay? So you need to stop being a perfectionist about it in terms of this is my one and only shot. No. What I find most commonly when people look at their resume as the single method, the single tool, if you will, that will get them the job, there's too much information on it. It's way too much information. You need to kind of think, and this may come out kind of crude. This isn't what I would recommend to people if they were my employees, but I'm not your boss. You're not my employee, so we can kind of talk a little more realistically. This is very much like dating. Trying to get a job is very much like dating. And if you show up to the first date with photo albums of you as a baby, your date's going to probably head for the hills. Oh my God, like that's a little deep. I just wanted to kind of know what you did for a living. I didn't need to know your life story. Good Lord, right? You need to have some mystery. You need to leave some for date number 2. You need to create just enough interest that there's going to be a date number 2, right? That's the interview process. So you need just enough information on your resume that makes you seem interesting. I'm going to take that and I'm going to read that and I'm going to say, wow, I'd really like to meet that person. That's where you're going to get a job interview. So the purpose of your resume is just to get a job interview. You're just trying to get a call back. You're just trying to get a phone call. So you don't need to literally detail every single piece of your work experience, education experience, volunteer experience, your awards. You don't need to detail you don't need to chronicle every single detail. Does that make sense? Hopefully. Because you're going to be turning off somebody who needs to go through your resume. They're going to get bored. I don't need to know all this stuff about you. So 90% of your resume is going to get ignored. Does that make sense? So why are you going to waste your time putting in information that isn't going to be looked at and is going to actually, in the aggregate, it's going to work against you? You're putting too much information on your resumes. Too much bad information. And you're leaving out really good stuff that makes me even more interested to know you as a person. I want to get to know you now. And that's what I'm going to be calling you on to get an interview. I'm going to be calling you, and I'm not necessarily going to say this on the phone, but when I call somebody for an interview, I get on the phone and I say, hey, you know what? You're really interesting. You seem pretty interesting on paper, and I'd like to get to know you more. That's not literally what we're saying, but that's what we're saying. I've looked at your resume. I've taken the information that you provided me. And yeah, I think you're a good fit for our position that we have available. Would you be able to come on in and talk with us so we can learn a little bit more about you, maybe talk to you about us if you have any questions? That's great, right? Now you got an interview. That's all your resume is there for. Now that I say that, I'm still going to be using your resume and I'm going to have questions. So I'm going to go through your resume. I'm going to say, okay, wow, you went to Harvard Business School. That's great. Tell me about your experiences there. Oh, well, it's all there on my resume. It's like the worst thing that you can possibly say to an interviewer. What are you doing? That's not the purpose of your resume. That is not the purpose of your resume. Oh, no, I wrote all that down. It's all on my resume. Okay. That is a red flag that is telling you that there is too much information on your resume. I want to hear that from you. Tell me, I know what's on your resume. I've read that. Why would you say that to me? I've had people say that to me. Have you said that to people? Have you said, oh, well, it should be there on my resume? Yeah, I know. I read your resume. I was asking you a question. Can you answer it? I'm not hiring the resume. I'm not interviewing the resume. I'm interviewing you. So you need to change your mindset. Before you sit down and you start plugging away with your name, address, phone number, the last 7 years of your work experience, your last 2 schools that you've gone to, the last 2 degrees that you've gotten, and you start going into all that stuff, stop. Take a breath. Take a breather. Wait. wait, and think. Is that relevant? That piece of information you're about to type there. Is that relevant? So, for example, I'm going to get into this again. I don't want to go off on any tangents, but I want to give you some solid, concrete, what is this guy talking about? Let me tell you what I'm talking about. One of the things that I look at on a resume, and it makes me laugh every time I see it. When you put your GPA on your resume, I'm not going to tell you, this is another video. We're going to talk all about this kind of stuff. We're going to talk all about that in another video, right? But if you got a 4.0 GPA, let's say, or like a 3.8, right? And then underneath, you also put Dean's List or Honor Roll or something. Honors, something. I know what a 4.0 is. I know. You don't need to have, if you have a 4.0, if you got honors, if you made the Dean's List or whatever it's called at your school, honor roll, honors, whatever, if you got that, that's all you need to put. You don't need to then also put 4.0. I got it. You're a smart kid. I got it. That's all you needed. That's all you needed. Why are they both there? Well, because some employers want to see your GPA. Yeah, and those employers will ask for it on the application. Doesn't need to be on your resume. If you didn't get honors, why would you put that? Well, I didn't get the honor roll. I went to Anytown, USA High School, graduated in 2014, and then bullet point, did not make the honor roll. Weird. Like, weird. Why would you? Nobody, not that you've put that. So why do you do the other, right? Why are you gonna? By the way, my GPA was a 1.7. Wow. You should get that tattooed on your forehead, right? I don't want to get too long in this video. I want to talk about other stuff. But does that make sense? You're putting too much on your resume, and a lot of it's redundant, and it's terrible. Stop. Wait a second. Whoa. You don't have one shot. You're not hunting with one bullet. Okay? Like, I got to get everything on this resume. I got to squeeze everything into this piece of paper. I can't use bullet points. I have to use entire paragraphs. I've seen that. I hate that. Oh my God, stop doing that. Bullet point. Bullet point. Nice and short and sweet. And please also remember, use columns for your bullet points. If you have like 8 bullet points, I don't need to see a strip of text and then next to it is like a blank spot of nothing because none of the bullets come over quite so far. So if you're going to have like 8 bullet points, use 2 columns so that you get 4 bullet points and 4 bullet points. Does that make sense? Now you're saving space. Perfect. That's how you should be looking at your resume. So in this video right here, just wanted to talk to you about that. Your resume, before you sit down and look for a template and make it all pretty and decide on what font you want to use and all these other things, hold on a second. What is the purpose of your resume? The purpose of your resume is to get a job interview. You just want to be interesting enough. You got to leave something for me to learn in the job interview. Otherwise, there's no point in interviewing you, right? Hopefully that makes sense. I'll see you next time. Remember, I'm not your boss. This is just advice. I'll see you next time. We're going to keep talking about resumes. Hope you're finding this interesting. See ya.